Hello, hello. Welcome to today's episode. Yes. I was talking with a friend and I have an epiphany, if you will, about sitting in a shame cycle from believing we are broken, fixing ourselves with constant things to lessen the shame cycle and to that not only do we inflict harm on ourselves, but I believe it causes us to stay in a constant cycle of fixing and perfection, and it puts us in a performance of proving, and also puts us in a cycle of we're never enough. I was in the foster care system. I experienced different things my whole life. I was placed in an almost adoptive home before I was one. And that is where I experienced a lot of horrific abuse. I experienced a ton of religious abuse. And everything that we did, there was some religious action, there was some religious thing implemented, some disciplinary thing. If you really want to get an idea of what discipline actions were done, there's a documentary out there called Shiny Happy People. And there are some, parents in religious communities that think or thought that disciplining their kids the way that this community disciplines kids is the way to go. And it induces abuse and harm, and it's like, that's not discipline. that's not that's not how God disciplines kids. Okay. So if you want just a better idea, you can go watch it, because it portrays a man who created this religious community, that it was like a cult that got people to, harm their kids and abuse their kids, thinking that they were disciplining them, which created a cycle of uh, of shame and trauma. And so you can go read that. So today I was having a conversation with my friend actually over the weekend, and we were talking about the constant, like, okay, so there's a thing called shadow work, right? While this is not my lane and that's not technically my brand on shadow work, what the root of shadow work is, there is a cycle that many people stay on, which is called the healing cycle. We call it personal development, personal growth, right? Um, and you got to be doing certain things in order to get healed, right? And move forward, because if you're not doing these things, then you're not good enough, or you're still going to be broken, and there's things about us that need to be fixed. So let me just go to work and start fixing. But then when we start fixing, we have this cycle of shame and and perfection and performing and proving, and then we get in this belief system that we're just not good enough. That we just, well, if I read another book, I'll be fine. I'm just going to read away my pain, my trauma, my hurt, and I'm going to personal growth myself to death. I am going to get on the healing journey and put myself in a cell of contempt, personal judgment. I'm going to inflict self harm with words and actions. It's never good enough, because it's going to get me in that cycle that I'm constantly fixing myself, because I can't see myself as a person who's already amazing as I am. And I can't see myself as a person where what I'm doing is good enough. My best is good enough. Who in the hell said that my best isn't good enough? I did a post today. I could very well make it the description of my show. I have the experience of also growing up in church my whole life and attending church and going up until 6 years ago. I think I did try to step foot in church twice into a different church, and I just couldn't do it because number one, I got tired of performing. I got so tired of performing for people to prove I was better than what I had said about myself, to prove I was amazing, to prove I could speak eloquently, and to prove that I was healed. I was the healed person that, I worked so hard. I then got in a cycle of performance. I performed quite well because of the attention that I got. So I translated that. Okay, I translated that to so performance gets me the attention that I'm amazing. And I believe people also put me on a pedestal because I speak very well. In the church that I was attending for about 20 years, I I had been given trust to use the microphone for I think it was from 2011 or 2012 to like 2019, 2017. It was about 7 years because I remember being able to share my forgiveness testimony, but it was shared in a way that I performed. My forgiveness testimony isn't one that, you know, um, but I deflected the forgiveness testimony because I didn't know that it was okay to be super transparent, real, raw, and authentic in a church setting because I was taught that that means trouble. That means that you get in trouble. That means you get shamed. And then, of course, you have the rules: no cussing in church because it's cursing, it's talking bad, it's unwholesome talk. So there are scriptures that were used my whole life in a way that taught me that I couldn't be authentic, but it was only used in a manner to get me to stay stuck in a pattern of fixing myself. I look at hairstyles that I used to wear, and I remember we were removed from our almost adoptive home, me and my two sisters, because they were abusive. We were placed in abusive foster homes after that. And by the time I was 12, I remember um, experiencing perfection my whole life. Okay, so first 10 years of my life, and then after that, it's a cycle of proving I was, perfect and worthy because I had to be picked by foster homes. So I remember multiple times trying to fix my hair, and there were times I would get so angry because it wasn't perfect. And I would sit there and pull on my hair, and I would try to make it so beautiful, and I couldn't because number one, I wasn't taught how to do my hair in an all white, almost adoptive home, and I'm biracial. I don't have white hair. I don't have straight hair. I have really curly ethnic hair. I don't have bone straight hair. It's an afro, okay? And now I keep it short because I don't desire to put it back in a bun or a ponytail or straighten it with a flat iron anymore. Been there, done that. No, thank you. And also, I didn't know that my hair is actually a signal, a sign of worth and beauty and amazement, and my hairstyle has helped me to embrace my beauty and identity as biracial. And it is beautiful. Hair is the first thing people touch when they are going through a hard time in their life, like a transition. And also, hair is usually the last thing people touch because they get so used to a hairstyle that can age people. The hairstyle, people just don't know what to do, so they leave it. But it creates an identity. Then, when you see people sit in these transformation agents' chairs and the hairstyle is done that creates a badass version, men and women, something shifts within the person because they're now seeing themselves as they truly are. And it enhances beauty. Yes, hair. It's what gets into the frequency of beauty. But when we're on a constant fixing cycle, we might not know that. In my post today on Facebook, I realized that there is a lot of shame put on people for them being in a place in their journey that doesn't match where other people are in their journey. So, everyone who's listening to this today, or even 5 years from now, you are on a different journey of healing than other people are, than people around you. It doesn't mean that you're on a pedestal. It doesn't mean that you're perfect or more, healed than anyone is. It's do we judge a toddler when they're learning to walk? No. Why? Because they're learning. I have never yelled at my kids for learning to walk. That would be ridiculous. Why would I? But I've held myself in contempt. I've held myself in judgment for years. I've held myself in a constant cycle of criticism and condemning because I didn't see myself far enough. But I also unknowingly, subconsciously, was putting myself in environments that reintroduced me to the cycle of shame and judgment and unworthiness for not being where I was told I should be. And a lot of that was stemmed from foster parents, birth mom, um, other environments, the church. I'm not bashing the church. This is my experience. I was taught that I was a broken individual who needed constant fixing because the wording that was used, and I know other folks sit in that cycle because I've been around it, I've seen it. But the healing I decided to take up is not for the faint of heart. I have done everything that I was told to do. You ready? Now, when you hear this list, you might find yourself in this category, and don't beat yourself up. Just know that you're listening to this for a reason today. I was just taking a drink of my energy, so that's what that noise was in my cup. So, reading. We call this self help, personal development, personal growth journey. Read. Readers are leaders. When you read, it helps. And people always have a book for part of your journey for you to buy and read. And then your library might add up with all these books. And of course, you'll read them, but you won't have a real true understanding of number one, why are you reading them? Did you ask yourself, why did I buy this book? Why did I buy something someone told me? Oh, yeah, it's because they told me how amazing and perfect their life is, but they're not really sharing the hard stuff behind the scenes, like the truth about what happens when you try to go through all the things, all the performance, the deliverance sessions, the healing conferences, the healing stuff. There is fruit attached to our healing. Some people have horrible rotten fruit because the healing that they're doing is surface level and they're not doing the work. They're not doing the work. They think they are. But then these same people that think they're doing the healing are abusive with their words. They mistreat friends. They don't listen to boundaries. They disrespect their boundaries. Then when someone tries to be themselves, they openly spew judgment and criticism onto them to make them think that there's something wrong with them for speaking a certain way, for sharing things that is vulnerable and transparent. And you think you can trust these people, but it's a religious act. And I'm sorry, but even those who are in healing who don't go to church, we can't put on glasses of judgment towards other people just because they are not in the same part of our journey that we are at. And also there are people in a healing journey who I believe put themselves on a pedestal. I did it. And it's also because of the messaging I was receiving. That if people just weren't doing enough to show that they healed, that they were healing, then there's still something wrong with them. Could you imagine? Not only did I experience that my whole life, growing up in foster care, but also living under religious teaching my first 10 years of life. It put me on the fast track to self-harm, self-abuse, put me on a fast track to perfection, stayed in performance my whole life up until a few years ago. Within the last 6 years, I have gotten the most healing in my life, but I made a decision. I can't go back to where I came from. Excuse me. I was repeating cycles, but I was in a cycle of shame. And I'm here to free somebody today and say, hey, there's only so much repetitive actions you can do in your healing journey, and that if the fruit isn't there, then you gotta stop. This is where you get to pivot and transition and shift into the version of yourself that you really want to be. Now, if you've been on the healing journey for a long time and you realize that you're still on square one, chances are, don't beat yourself up, but you just have been sold a bill of goods that says that you're less than and you're not perfect and you must fix yourself. Keep fixing yourself. You know, the healing journey causes us to believe that we are so broken that we have to constantly fix ourselves. You know, where does that come from? Where does that come from? Not ourselves. We get that messaging, and sometimes people, it comes from people and environments that we put ourselves in. When we are constantly trying to go through the healing process, and I'm using the word trying because we're trying our best, we can sometimes never see how far we've come because we're in that constant cycle of shame and proving and performing. Well, if I just read one more book, I'll be set free. Or this is the other one. I'll just pray away my stuff. Or I'm having a bad day today, or I'm having a bad moment, I'm having a tough moment, I'm emotional, or I'm allowing myself to feel something, but that's bad, so I'm going to find something to fix and cover up my feelings. Why? Because I've been told that unless I am happy and joyful all the freaking time, and the I'm only going to say this for context purposes, but I'm pretty sure we've all heard this statement. And again, this is not a judgment, it's not a bash, it's my experience. The blessed and highly favored, the ones who are hurting the most are usually the ones that are out there saying, I am blessed and highly favored. And yet, behind the scenes, these people are dealing with the most trauma, the most issues, and we've been taught to hide it. We've been taught don't show, don't feel, prove you're tough, prove you're amazing, prove you're healed, prove you're spiritual enough, prove you're soulful. And then when you do, it's still never enough. But what happens is, and in my experience is, we get taught and told that we're not doing enough. How dare us be at a certain place in our journey because it's not enough, do more. I have been in the spaces of people who have also called themselves my friend and then turned around and showed me that they were not a friend. They judged me, they criticized me, they condemned me for not being at a place that they thought in their eyes I should be at, that there was still something wrong with me. And then I realized that the very people that were telling me something's wrong with me for even something as small as verbally processing, I realized that they are not someone I really want to be around. Because if you're a friend, you're not going to criticize me for being someone that I am, for being the person I am. You're not going to sit there and openly judge me in front of other people and call yourself a friend and try to put me in a category that says you're not good enough. You're supposed to be doing this to show that you're healed, to show that you're fixed. You know, I referenced at the very beginning about shadow work. Now, that's not my brand, but here's what I know. A lot of people out there are constantly doing shadow work, doing the work. But what happens when you get to a point in your life, like I did, and this is just my experience I'm sharing with you today. What happens when you get to a point in your life where it's like, I don't want to read another fucking self-help book. I don't want to read another fucking personal growth book. I don't want to read another scripture. Why? Because you realize that you've been performing and it's tiring. And you put yourself in a perfectionist state. For what? To prove how amazing and healed we are? You know, I had to get back to a place of even enjoying reading the Bible because in my experience, I was taught that that we have to read God's word and it has to be done this way. You got to spend 2 hours, you got to do this. And the teaching that I put myself under unknowingly costed me many years of my life because I put myself in a shame-inducing cycle and my morning routines were what I was told I should be doing. So then I tried to fix that. Then I tried to get in a routine that was suitable for my environment, was pleasing and worthy, so that I could brag about it, so that I could get accolades. Why? Because that's what I was told. And I was treated well when I was telling people, especially in certain environments, specific environments. I'm telling you, I learned how to perform really well under the church, but I also had to perform for safety. Very people that caused the most harm in the first 10 years of my life. And then after that, which wasn't abusive, but there were some things that were still done that you know, I don't need to hold them in contempt. I have walked through the forgiveness process, but first 10 years of my life, but I had to learn how to perform for safety purposes. And I'll start closing with this. You know, the healing journey is not something that we have to continuously put ourselves in. It is a decision that we make. And I believe that God will bring us exactly who and what we need in every part of our season. In fact, there's a prayer that I learned and a declaration that I learned from a book called Commanding Your Morning by Cindy Trim with 2 M's. I recommend you go get it because it not only talks about in the first part of the book why the words you speak matter and how our tongues are like a rudder. Everything lines up with the scripture there, but I will say that it also teaches us how to pray things into our lives and out of our lives. There's a specific declaration that says, I call forth every, excuse me, person and resource assigned to help me in this season. There's also another declaration which I enjoyed praying, that God would remove every person that is not designed to be in my circle of influence. And there are specific things I remember. There's also another book that I recommend. Go get it. It's called Hello Tomorrow by Cindy Trim. Talks about having a vision. Then there's declarations in the back of the book. Talks about aligning your life and your words with your vision. And it's not just a Christian book for people. It's for everyone who's looking for a vision to enhance their journey. Because without a vision, we perish. Point blank, we just do. We are aimless individuals walking around, taking up air. And lastly, the healing journey wasn't meant to keep us in a cycle of shame or guilt or judgment. You're not broken. The healing journey was there to help us move forward, not stay stuck, not continuously put expectations and judgments and ridicule and criticisms over ourselves. That is abuse. That is self abuse, by the way. That doesn't help anyone. And my chapter 5 or my chapter 10 could be your chapter 2. So don't compare yourself with my journey or anyone else's, not even people who are ahead of you or behind you, because we all have to learn to walk. We all had to learn how to walk, how to eat, how to use the toilet, right? We don't yell at toddlers for not knowing how to use the bathroom, right? We don't yell at toddlers for not knowing not to put their hands on an electrical socket. They're just looking at the world. I mean, we do say no in a sharp voice, so we teach them not to not to, electrocute themselves because that's a safety thing. But what I'm saying is our healing journey was never meant to be a cycle of fixing. We can't fix parts of ourself that we are healing. We can't, we're not meant to be fixed. We're not broken china. But when we start seeing ourselves in the light and the value and the beautiful, like, art that we are, we will stop looking at ourselves as broken individuals that need constant fixing. Because that keeps us on a constant cycle of shame. And you will get to a point in your life where you will stop going through the motions, stop going through the status quo, and you will realize that there is a man who already paid the price. Why am I keeping myself in contempt? God doesn't hold me in contempt. Jesus doesn't hold me in contempt of judgment. Why am I judging myself? Why am I trying to fix myself? And then you'll start questioning. Then you'll start seeing the fruit because you'll take time to celebrate. You will take time to celebrate. By the way, celebrating all of your hard work and every small thing, no matter how tough, big, whatever, large along the way. I'm telling you, celebrations get you to realize how hard you have been working, and they get your mind off of how much farther you think you have to go. We got to stop fixing ourselves. We cannot be powerful human beings in a shame, constant cycle of fixing. And when we get healed, we'll realize that if we are around people that are trying to fix us also, because then we'll realize, like, oh, I have come a long way. When is the last time you sat and told yourself that you have come a long way? When did you acknowledge your hard work? I'm going to acknowledge that for you before I log off. I acknowledge your hard work. I acknowledge you for listening to this podcast. I acknowledge you for taking the steps to release yourself today from a cycle of shame and harm and hurt, and saying these words: I am enough. My best is good enough. There is nothing wrong with me. I am not broken. I am beautiful. I am amazing. I work hard. And with that, that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for choosing you. Don't forget to click subscribe, follow, share this with a friend today.